Welcome, brothers and sisters, to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Welcome, brothers and sisters, and we thank each and every one of you all for tuning in to another episode of I Have a Testimony, now on the Closing the Gap broadcast. Today, family, we have with us a very special guest, and I'd say our brother, he's the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 85 in the city of New Brunswick, New Jersey. But I also tell our brother he's he's an honorary member of Muhammad Mosque number 46 in the city of New Orleans, our brother student minister, brother Lenny Muhammad. And you're going to find out why I say he's an honorary member. But check this out.
Jesus is born, no physical father. You know, we're going to get past that because that was kindergarten stuff. That's Sunday school when you first start and you can't understand.
Right, come on, see.
But as God has revealed more and more through his servant, Minister Farrakhan, understanding is clear for us today. So in Maulana Muhammad Ali, it says, then we sent our spirit, and it appeared to her as a well-made man. This is what the Holy Quran says. But it's just not Maulana Muhammad Ali. Check out what Ahmed Ali said. Because in these translations, you got to get different versions, right? There's different versions of the Bible. So if I see an accident and you see an accident, the officer's going to say, well, what did you see? He ran the red light. Then the next one may say, well, no, she ran the red light. So there's versions. So now the officer's got to decide who's as close to the truth as possible.
I'm in there too. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, brother.
Good. Yo, man. First of all, assalamu alaikum, man. Thank you for joining us.
My brother. Thank you for having me. I'm honored beyond words.
It's been a long time overdue. And we talked when you came here. I said we wanted to do it. And man, as pulling that clip, as you know, that was a very powerful lecture. I don't know if that was the first one or the second one you did here in the city of New Orleans.
I believe it was the second.
And
I believe the point was those other versions changed the well-made man to a well-formed man, a concrete man.
Wow.
And all of those attributes belong to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
Praise be to Allah. So thank you, man. I'd like to get right to the actual interview. So my first question I want to ask, and one of the things that I love about doing this show is that I get the opportunity, along as though, in addition with those who watch it, to hear the stories about how people came to Islam. So can you share with us how you were first came into contact with the teachings and then eventually became a member of the Nation of Islam?
Oh, brother, out here on the East Coast, you know, we in the late 80s and the early 90s, the 5% Nation was very strong. PE, Brand Nubians, KRS-One. I mean, all you heard was the teachings and the lessons. So in high school, like many other brothers, I joined the 5% Nation of Islam. That's how I first came into contact with some aspect of the teaching. And as I grew, again, the minister is just on the radio through PE and these other groups. It was something about his voice. Growing up as a Christian, I always knew that it was something that I was missing. And I walked into a home of a good friend, and he had the minister on, and I was kind of young, and he said, y'all young boys need to listen to this. And it was Power at Last, 1985, Los Angeles, and the brother let me borrow the tape. And I'm gonna confess right now, I never gave that video cassette back, but I actually listened to that tape until the color faded. And then one day, the brother took me to Muhammad Mosque number 85 in Newark on Halsey Street. And brother, I can say with truth, I mentioned this today at our meeting today, I would have joined if they asked me at the check procedure. Because once I got there, I knew where I was. And student minister Abdul Qadir Muhammad delivered the message. I don't remember a word he said, but I know I joined. And actually this September, I will be, by Allah's grace, 32 years since that day I walked into Muhammad Mosque number 25 and accepted the teaching. So it's been a journey for sure. Praise be to Allah.
That's beautiful to actually hear, man, and to hear that actual, those stories. And then something like you said with the 5%, man, that's something. And all of us have our unique journey. And that leads me to this next question. As you reflect, as you say, you're coming up on your anniversary, what would you say have been some of the most profound lessons that you have learned as a Muslim in the Nation of Islam?
Brother, I'll say honestly that, you know, what we bring to the nation is amplified once we develop the discipline of the nation and we utilize what we know and gain what we did not know through our beloved, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and his example. So I think one of the most profound lessons that I've learned is, you know, Allah gave us gifts and talents. I didn't know what my gift and talent was. I never would have imagined that I would ever sit in the position as the student minister of a mosque, because I didn't come here for that. I started out as a squad leader. I became a lieutenant very quickly. I don't know what it was. And Brother Captain Magic that saw lieutenant in me, but I was just on time. I was dependable at the meetings and I followed instructions, but I gained a level of growth every time I applied the teachings in my everyday life. So that's really the big lesson that I got, is that you come with gifts and talents, but you stay to have your gifts and talents developed. And the nation is a platform for you to utilize that gift and talent. And I thank the Honorable Minister Farrakhan for giving me an opportunity to use my gift and my talent to serve this great nation. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway I have. At this point, Allah's not done with us, but to this day, I can put a comma and not a period on that testimony.
Man, but that's beautiful to be able to, you know, discover that gift and that talent. And, you know, we talked about prior to us going live, you know, we talked about the recent passing of our brother, one of our pioneers in the Nation of Islam, an angel, as many of us often refer to him as, and Brother Jibril Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, and whose janazah is going to be on next Sunday at 11 a.m. from Mosque Mariam. While preparing for this interview, I came across a picture with you and our brother Jibril Muhammad. So in honor of him, his work, his sacrifice, can you talk about, you know, your fondest memories with Brother Jibril and anything that you have learned from him as well?
All praise is due to Allah, brother. Brother was very instrumental, I always say, and I don't want to preempt any words that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, inshallah, will deliver to us next week. But my personal relationship with our brother was very limited. However, I was blessed to be able to sit in a class, a ministry class, years ago. I don't know how I got there, brother. I think I was the study group coordinator in Trenton at the time. And Brother Jibril was chopping everybody up in the room. And I stayed silent because I learned pretty quickly that, you know, the more you talk, the more you get analyzed. But he said to us, you all do a lot of talking. What kind of subjects do you have? And brothers were saying all these subjects that they were teaching on. And he said, well, why don't you do a subject on in the name of Allah? And I sat there, and I can tell you right now, brother, I'm still working on that one, because it's such a profound statement that it's volumes in just that Bismillah. So, as I said in our meeting today, we thank Allah much for brother, and may Allah be pleased with him. And we have to learn that Allah is the giver and he calls. And I reflected on Brother Student Minister Abdul Hafiz Muhammad's passing. May Allah be pleased with him. And as Allah took away a gift from us, he gave us another gift in the criterion. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, he was inspired through the loss of Brother Hafiz. So I thank Allah much for him. His articles are a part of my lectures each and every Sunday. I mean, if you want to know more and more and more about the minister, you should have every single Final Call article of Farrakhan the Traveler you can get your hands on. And plus book 1 and 2 of This Is the One. So just a great, great asset to our nation.
Beautiful, man. And those words that you shared in regards to how even when one who we love has been removed away, something comes out.
Yes,
and you
sir.
mentioned our brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him. It's a good way to segue into our next question, because I wanted to ask you about him so we can never forget our brother. You're from the eastern region of the Nation of Islam, and you've served under our brother and worked with our brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad. Do you have any stories or special moments that you can share with that you've had with our brother?
Oh, brother, Brother Abdul Hafiz, one thing I will share about Brother Hafiz is he is one of the funniest brothers that you will ever, ever, ever meet. I mean, he asked me to assist him in a way where I disseminated information to the ministry class in the Eastern region. And I was just happy to help in any way once he became the Eastern regional minister. But brother, he loved Farrakhan. And I drew from that man's commitment to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan was so strong. And I admired him for that. And I also admired brother's ability to, when he called you, he always said, brother, is this a good moment? He always made sure before he gets on you or begins to talk to you about anything, he just wants to check your pulse, and then he'll go on. But he was such a beautiful brother. I just remember one visit, he was here in Mas 85. He loved coming here. He loved having dinner with us. And everything he did was a teaching moment. That's one thing about Hafiz. He would teach on the bean soup. He would teach, he said, brother, the minister told me have cubes of cheese and not this shredded cheese. I mean, he would just teach on anything like his teacher, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. He just didn't really have a moment where he didn't see an opportunity to share something of the minister. So I loved him for that. I will always love that brother, and may Allah be pleased with him.
Definitely, may Allah be pleased with him for the work that he does. And he was definitely funny. I remember, I think when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's last time here was like in 2008, and I had the opportunity to, you probably seen these homes, drive him down St. Charles Avenue. And he was like, what? Just saw how big these homes were, and just how these white folks, most of them had they were former plantations. And he was just blown away, man, amazed. But always a genuine brother, and we thank Allah for the work that he's done, and we stand on the work that he's done, and we continue his legacy in his name. And since we're talking about this history, I came across this picture. I do research, man, and I saw the picture with you with our brother Abdul Kareem Muhammad, right?
Okay,
and
yes.
Isn't he also called by some the general?
The general,
right?
Yes, sir.
And I've met him once while at the dinner table with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We briefly talked, but if you can, tell us about his accomplishments, his history, and any other memories that you may have as well.
Well, brother, Brother Minister Abdul Kareem is very well loved here. All of those that I look up to were trained by the general, if you will. I know Student Minister Abdul Qadir Muhammad, our regional minister out of the Mid-Atlantic. Every time I would sit with him, I was actually his driver for a number of years, and he would always share things about what Minister Kareem taught him. I know Brother Jamil as well, Sister Ava, Sister Aisha, just a number of giants that came out of this area. And, you know, brother is, you know, he's just a soldier's soldier. And whenever I meet him, you know, again, I think this is the training, because brother Minister Abdul Hafiz had this same mentality that he will look you in your eye when he says, brother, how are you? How is your family, brother? You know, and he has that way of saying, yes, beloved. And, you know, he has some of the biggest hands that I've ever known. And every time I shake his hand, I remind him of that. But he's very well respected in mosque number 85. I know his picture is in the lobby of mosque number 7. It will remain there simply because of the work that he did. I'll share a quick story with you. I was blessed to be with the minister one day, and he said, Brother Lenny, he said, you remind me of a brother I met one day. And I didn't know where he was going with it, but he said his name was Linward Cathcart. And he said it all started back there in that New Brunswick area. And he was talking about Brother Linwood X, who is now known as Brother Abdul Kareem Muhammad. So the minister loves him. I know we love him here, and we will always have that admiration for him.
You've had the opportunity to be around some of our nation's greats, man. And you talked about how when you were part of the ministry, well, you sat in the ministry class, but you were not a part of the ministry. You sat in the ministry meeting, but you weren't part of the class. And you saw what Brother Jabril was, he was dealing and correcting and really helping the brothers to grow. But now from that, you are now the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 85 in New Brunswick. So can you share with us how you came to be appointed the student minister there in that city?
Oh, yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I'm honored to serve. I don't say irony, but this coming November will be the 10th anniversary of my being appointed here as the student minister. And the way that happened, as you know, I was the student secretary here. And I was blessed to work on Brother National Secretary, Brother Sa'ad Alim's staff, and help with innovating some aspects of his department as well. And our beloved student minister, James Muhammad, who was in the picture with Brother Kareem that you previously had up, had fallen ill. Brother James, may Allah be pleased with him. He was the original minister here. He was the study group coordinator here in Mosque number 85 when we were the New Brunswick study group under Newark. And he was here when I came, and we just became such great brothers. And our brother got sick. And so I was kind of doing double duty for a number of months as the student secretary and helping cover down in any ministerial role that needed to be covered. Because I had started a study group in 1995 in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, after the Million Man March, when I was living there for a few years. And then I moved back to Jersey, and Brother Qadir said, brother, no, you got to take one of these cities. And I was assigned to Trenton in the year like 1995 to 2000. So I had been growing a little in the ministry. And as I was reassigned here to New Brunswick, I was in the secretary's department handling that. And our brother got sick and passed away. And on the day of his janazah, you know, it was again a day of remembrance. It was a somber day. It was a Sunday. And Student Minister Abdul Qadir Muhammad was here, and he was overseeing the Eastern region. And a lot of people may not know this, but Brother Qadir handled 2 regions. He handled the Mid-Atlantic and the Eastern region for a number of years. And he came up and did the janazah, and we came back to the mosque, and all the believers were here, and I brought him on, and without any warning, brother, no notice or anything, he asked the believers, would they accept me as their student minister? You know, it's hard to think about it and not think about the loss of my brother. But the believers, you know, gave me overwhelming support at that time. And, you know, that's how I got assigned here. So inshallah, this September, we're having an event to honor my 10 years, but I wanted it to also reflect on our brother as well. I could not remember my installment without remembering his passing.
Wow.
So that's, you know, it's kind of, you know, happy on one end and, you know, a little sorrow on the other end. But I will say, brother, that the last thing my brother said to me, and Allah's my witness, was, brother, take care of the mosque. And when, you know, someone says something like that to you, and that's the last words you hear from them in a hospital, that's very, very important to me. So I take it very, very seriously of what I do and try to continue and grow the work that he started. So this mosque that we have, you know, he put his blood and his tears in building out this place, and my goal is to maintain it and make it better. So by Allah's grace, I think we've been able to do that. So that, you know, that's how, you know, I always say I take it with a grain of salt, because this is a serious hour that we're in. And yes, it's great to be able to be a student minister under the father, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. However, it is a trial at the same time. So it's not to be taken lightly for any reason whatsoever.
And so I don't know if I missed it. So when did it go from a study group to a mosque?
Brother, we grew organically. It's one of the great stories. We were a study group when I came under Newark. So all of our meetings were in Newark. We had one meeting here in New Brunswick, and that was a study group night where we were able to study, and we were serious about studying. But Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would go up to Newark because I was, again, the minister's driver. The sisters went to class in Newark. Everything happened in Newark until we got 40. So in 1996, 40, actually 50, was on the petition. So Brother Minister James, Student Minister James, may Allah be pleased with him, became the first minister of Muhammad Mosque number 85. And our brother captain, Student Captain Joseph, is the only captain of Muhammad Mosque number 85. So he's actually the longest tenured captain in the Eastern region. So we have a very strong foundation because we grew organically from a study group to a mosque, and we learned and drew from the mother mosque. So what better mosque to grow and learn from than the historic Muhammad Mosque number 25? So
wow,
I think that has set us up to be very strong and to continue that legacy that Minister Kadir, Captain Majid, and those before him laid the base for.
Good, man. And I'm glad. This is one of the reasons why I like doing this show, because it gives us an opportunity to record that history.
Yes,
Hearing
sir.
you share those stories about Brother Jabril, Brother Abdul Kareem, Brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, and the brother who was a student minister there prior to you, and how you all came to be a mosque. So now when people want to know that history, we have something in the record that they can come to, and it is people who were there and they're from the Nation of Islam, is not some other folks that just don't like us. So I opened up the program and I talked about how you are honorary member of Muhammad Mosque number 46. We might need to see how we can put that on your flyers, number 85/46. And I said that because you married one of our sisters, and the world is changing, you know, and where now, before, people would just have to marry somebody that was pretty much from their city or from a surrounding city. But now with this technology, you can get in contact of know people who live as far as overseas, in different cities. And I've read comments where people kind of talk about they're hesitant about participating in a long distance courtship. You're from New Brunswick, our sisters from New Orleans. Did you have any hesitancies about the long distance courtship? And if so, how did you overcome them? And what advice would you give to those who may be single and watching this regarding long distance courtships? I know it's a big question, but
Well, no, brother. I mean, you kind of prefaced the question with the answer. Technology allows us to expand our social circle. I met sister, actually, I was not looking, in New Orleans to get married. I actually purchased something from sister's website. And as the story goes, I didn't think it was the correct item that I received. So I thought it might have been a little, bait and switch going on. So when I reached out, sister, through the instant messaging, the sister sternly reminded me of, the etiquette of how, look, we this nation business here, brother. And so it was kind of funny, but it kind of sparked interest. But we have to be mindful. We got to be careful. Brother Ishmael, National Assistant to the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, mentioned it to us. We got to be careful if we're going to uproot someone that may be from another part of the country. I felt that I had the means to maintain that home relationship that she currently has. So you said it, honorary, brother. I'm like, a snowbird now. When it gets too cold up in Jersey, I can come back down to New Orleans and hang out with you all and the beautiful believers there. But, we got to be careful if we do enter into a long distance relationship or courtship, if you will. I apologize, courtship. Then we have to make sure we give it a little more time and we cover a lot more of the bases that need to be covered in regards to taking someone out of, as Brother Ishmael said, we're taking a beautiful flower out of the pot that it's in. Now we're going to transfer it to another area in some different soil. We got to make sure that that flower doesn't lose any of its beauty. So I say this, brother, 196,940,000 square miles belong to the original man. So, we want to limit ourselves to our little study groups and little mosques and the little areas that we're in, then help yourself. But I believe, as the lessons ask us, what's producing land and what's desert. If we're the original man and we're the owner and the maker, we can make anything that we need happen. So I prayed to the God that, it would go well. And all I can say, brother, is, I have a diamond and we still working on each other. But again, as long as we in the teachings, that you got a chance. The minute you leave the class is when you don't have a chance. So we recently had Brother Nuri here. He said he sat with the minister one day and the minister was giving him some guidance. And he told the minister, he said, you know what? I tell him, brother minister, if you come to the meeting, you won't need a meeting. So I try to share that with the believers here. Come to your meetings and you won't need to have a meeting with your minister about your relationship. So by Allah's grace, is doing well. And I thank Allah for that, sister, and the gift that God have given me.
praise be to Allah, man. And I remember then she had you became a part of the fashion consultant team as well. You know what I'm saying? And that was beautiful. And I'm
still waiting for my paycheck, brother.
We still waiting for your paycheck? Yeah, brother.
Those items. But again, that's the blessing of Allah, brother, that you have someone that is has an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes, she does.
So praise be to Allah.
Yeah, I remember one time she said we were in a meeting. She said because she's a money magnet, and she attracts the dollar, man. And yes, what was so beautiful about your wedding, it always stuck out to me, was how you responded to her family. and you let them know, I'm not remember the exact words, but in essence, you were letting them know, like, yo, we are together now. We are a family. And just to see how they responded to you, man, I was like, yeah, sister, she's made a good choice. So that made it a little bit easier for her to leave, brother, because I like to hold on to
Yes,
believers,
sir.
but,
Well,
you know.
she's not gone yet, brother. When
Yeah,
she
but
talks about her
y'all,
mosque, she
yeah,
doesn't say mosque 85. When she talk about the mosque, I gotta get her to clarify what mosque she's talking about,
talking about.
and usually it's mosque number 46. So inshallah, we'll be able to get that honorary term off, and I'll be official one day. I'm gonna have dual citizenship.
Yeah, that's what. Let me
Israel.
say that. That's better than honorary. You have dual citizenship. That's
Praise
the right words. You have
praise,
dual citizenship, man. So it's always a blessing when you all come down, man. And it's just a blessing, man. And I'm thankful. And what you said, I hope that those who are watching this, were actually listening, because, like you said, man, the world is is massive. Don't just stay in that one particular area. And I want to transition to this next question. And this is also, I keep saying, is what I love about doing these shows. We get the opportunity to record history. And I came across this photo. Anytime you type in Nation of Islam, FOI, this image comes up, right? And I want to bring this image up so that you can actually see it.
Oh, yes, sir.
And you are in that image. That's you front center to the right of Brother Abdul Haq, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct. That is correct.
And these are the type of images that they show when they talk about the Nation of Islam. These images are going to come back, and you are part of this history. So can you talk about just how that came about, how it felt, how it feels to see it, and the significance of it?
Brother, it's a blessing. I will say this to anyone listening. You can't be a part of history if you're absent. So you have to be present. That's number one. And that's one of the things I learned early under Minister Kadir and Brother Captain Majid when we were in Mosque 25. Always be present. And at that time, the minister was moving around, and we were always on high alert that the minister may stop by the mosque. So we never missed a meeting. It was like you miss a meeting, you're like, where brother at? Because you just never missed a meeting. So that picture actually is not the official picture. There was an official picture that came after this, because if you notice, I'm there and I did not have the minister's fez. My hat says FOI. So Brother Majid, as you can see standing behind me, being the military soldier that he is, he wanted some kind of congruency in the picture. And he did not want, I guess, and I know Brother Majid very well, he didn't want me to be excluded. So instead of having me to the right or to the left, he put me there in the middle. And there's actually another picture where I'm standing off to the right over there, where that column of brothers are to the right. But this just happened to be the picture that was taken by, the world. And I will say, brothers who are listening, the instruction now, here I am, I'm a student minister. So, we got an instruction to be ready for the FOI class at Savior's Day. But the instruction was be in the lobby at 4:00. Now I could, if I wanted to, take on any kind of mixed instruction or make an instruction for myself. You know who I am, I'm the minister. But I'm a soldier, man. The regional captain asks us to be in the lobby at 4:00. I'm in the lobby at 4:00. So that picture came about because of the vision of our regional captain, Brother Captain Majid, who I love so much, put that together. And by Allah's grace, that's the image that is popping up. So the other week, Brother Captain Joseph called me. He said, brother, you in the final call. And I'm thinking, maybe there's a picture of me that I'm in an article or somebody wrote something about, and it was that picture in the final call. So praise be to Allah.
Wow. And it is a very powerful picture. And I remember when we were asked to come up to Chicago last year.
Yes, sir.
That was in November, right? November the 19th, if I'm not mistaken.
But the brothers came.
Yeah, and remember, the brothers had the brown uniforms and were asked to report to the mosque, and it took another historic photograph. And those are just powerful, man. So thank you for now we able to get some of the background of that picture and even the other ones that you said that were taken that we didn't have the opportunity to display. So I want to ask you this. You've had the opportunity and been blessed to be around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, right? And if you can, however many you want to share, you definitely feel free to share them. Can you share some of those moments and some of those experiences?
Yes, brother, by Allah's grace. You know, I'm a brother, Stu, Mr. Willie. I've always been kind of a background brother. I mean, I don't try to push my way up front or anything like that. But I do recall a story, and I kind of mentioned to you one day you had a brother on your show, Brother Farrakhan Ali. And I remember uniquely the day that I had got an invite to the palace. Brother Ishmael was calling cities. So he said New Brunswick. And this is early on in my appointment here. So I go to the palace and I'm not late. Maybe my name wasn't on the list. I don't know. But me and the brother is standing out in the lobby and they're waiting, to clear us. So it's me and him, Brother Farrakhan, his young brother. And I just remember distinctly that day I was blessed to sit right to the right of the minister, to his left, I'm sorry. And at the end of the dinner, he called this brother up and he said, "What's your name, brother?" And brother said, "Brother Farrakhan, sir." And the minister looked around the room because Mother Khadijah was sitting there. And he looked over at Mother and said, "Don't look at me. I don't got nothing to do with this one." And everybody started laughing. And he asked the brother, he said, "Brother, who gave you that name?" And the brother said, "My mother, sir." And he said, "Brother, is your mother white?" And the brother said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "What's her name, brother?" And I think the brother Farrakhan said Aisha. I'm not sure. But the minister said, "And she gave you that name?" And he said, "Yes, sir." And then the minister looked around. The minister's very funny, but he looked kind of stern at all of us and said, "See, you all take this black stuff too far sometimes." And he went on to discuss, I think at the time, he was seeing on social media some of how foolish we are in our pushback when he took the picture with Brother Kanye West and his, at that time, wife, Kim Kardashian, and their family. And I think some mentions on social media were pretty negative about it. And he was teaching on that. And he said, "Brother, can I meet your mother?" He said, "Because I want to honor the womb that gave us such a beautiful son." And he said, "No, sir, brother, she's passed." And then the minister started weeping a little bit. And when he started weeping, you know us, brother, it wasn't a dry eye in the room at that point. And at that point, he said, "Well, what's your last name, brother?" And he said his slave name. He said, "No, are you?" He said, "No, Farrakhan X." Or he said, "No, brother, Ali." And at that point, it wasn't you couldn't get enough napkins to dry the eyes in the room. And I think that was one of the most profound moments that I was blessed to be with the minister, because he recognized that brother for something that he did for him in regards to one of his children. And the brother was, again, a soldier, the brother Farrakhan. He stepped up to do something that he was asked to do, and the minister blessed him. But he honored his mother, and he didn't use skin color. And that's one thing that the minister is always kind of in the private moments have shared with us. We got to get by this stuff and we got to grow. So I think that was one of the more memorable moments. I know I was also blessed to be with him, and there were others. When I say me, I mean there were others that were there. Brother Hafiz, Brother Hawk, I believe, Brother Student Minister Henry. We were in New York before the minister and Sister Naima and Brother Saad and those went to Mecca on that last trip, and we were with them the night before. And he was sharing some light moments. And it's one thing I've taken away, that the minister is very consistent. How he is how he is. And there is not a moment that he is not teaching. I don't care when it is, where it is. His mouth is not made to speak an idle word. And it's always a blessing. And I've learned so much from just his mannerisms and his listening of music. You know, the minister will introduce you to classical music. And if you from, you know, the neighborhoods we grew up, you ain't never heard a classical song in your life, brother. and he'll break it down. He'll teach you what this tone means. And this is what the person who wrote it was thinking at the time. So he expands your breast whenever you're allowed to be in his presence in private moments as well. So I just love that about him. And to the world, you know, you have a man who don't let the enemy portray what you see. You see a grandfather, a great grandfather, a father, a brother, an uncle. You see all of that culminating in the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. So,
beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And before we close out, I want to come back to a similar question like that, but more on a testimony, getting more and more testimony, because it's beautiful that you were there to witness that. You know what I'm saying? And how you said what you extracted from it in the minister's view, because oftentimes people paint the minister because of his passion and because of his love for our people, and calling out the historical injustices committed by Caucasian people. The media and others like to fashion that to say, oh, see, he's a hater. But you were able to witness that, and then witness him teach others around him, you know, this is why we have to grow, right? And there was a question I wanted to ask that I didn't get a chance, so I want to go back to this one. You talked about you being the student minister there and how you became the student minister in New Brunswick. But I also want to ask you, you know, what have been some of the lessons you have come to learn as a student minister?
Well, brother, I could tell you, marrying that to being in the presence of the minister, you know, in different settings, you know, it's not always private in the public and things of that nature as well, but developing a patience that he has with each other. You know, we are not patient with each other. Holy Quran said man's created in haste. He was talking about black folk. We have no patience whatsoever. And I try to gather that. And I remember one thing, the minister said this, you know, it's a couple of things, but when I saw him, this was actually in the room in Brooklyn, prior to going to Mecca as well, he just grabbed my hand and said, brother, thank you for pastoring the believers. You know, he said, I have a lot that evangelize as well, but you brothers that pastor the believers. So I took that very, very personal. And I asked myself, do I pastor? Am I there to counsel when or in a time of need? You know, so I try to give more than I take when it comes to being with the believers. And there you see some of the mighty ministers, student minister Michael on the left, brother Henry in the Brooklyn there, myself and brother Richard from Trenton there. So we're a very close group here. And I think the minister has helped us love each other here. And I grown to have a brotherhood with the ministry here locally, because as you know, you can go 20 minutes and you at another mosque here. You go another 20 minutes, you at another study group. You go another 20 minutes, you at the historic mosque number 7. And it take you 40 minutes to get across town to Brooklyn, but that's a whole nother story. But that love has to be strong here amongst the ministry class and the believers. And you witness it because of what the Honorable Minister Farrakhan did when he was the minister here. And that's that history that comes from Brother Abdul Kareem down through Brother Abdul Qadir, because all of this area was one. And for it to maintain, as the minister said, those mosques that must remain open, we all got to be one to do that. So those are just little things that I build in understanding my role as I grow more in the capacity. We're in a small city, brother. I always say we're not like New Orleans. We don't have a Superdome. We don't have an airport. We don't even have a radio station.
What?
Brother, we don't even got a newspaper, all right? But we got some workers here that till the soil. I was reading a story about the man giving out the talents. Gave 5 to some, 2 to some, and 1 to some. I don't know where I fit in those talents, but I know whatever I got to work with, I'm going to try to expand. And that's what the minister wants us to do. He wants us to grow, go after the dead. He said, pluck out as many as you can while it's still time. So the hour is coming, family. We just got to go to work harder and go after our people like we've never done before.
Beautiful, man. I love that. What you said. I want to ask you two follow-up questions to that. One, can you talk more about like your manner of providing pastoral care, some other methods that you use and things that you have learned as it relates to that?
Well, brother, I try to be preemptive in my pastoral responsibilities, meaning if you have your ear to the ground, Brother Minister Kadir taught me this, brother, if you don't know what's going on, he used to say to us, if a rooster crossed Broad Street in Newark, he got to know about it. And he used to always tell us, whenever the minister would pass through Newark Airport, he would meet him. And the minister always wondered how he knew. But Brother Kadir always said, it's my job to know that the man is coming through. So we just try to be a little bit more preemptive. And we talk about things, because if it's affecting me, Brother Willie, it's probably affecting 99% of the people who are listening to us. So again, making sure you make your meeting so you won't need a meeting. But I know sometimes I will have a brother and a sister, or maybe someone who has a disagreement, and they'll come before me and they'll start pleading their case to me, and I'll stop and I'll tell them, turn your chairs towards each other. Say to him or her what you were about to say to me, and I'll walk out the room, brother. And I'll say, hey, I don't hear nobody talking in there. And then just to get that dialogue going, because the questions and the issues that we have before us have been solved already. And if you can't get that out of the study guides 1 through 20, or the time and what must be done, or all the books, all the lectures, all the things, the tools that we have, don't come before us as student ministers thinking that we're going to give you something that you don't already have. So if you just go inward, you'll be able to find what is there. And if you're honest with yourself, you know the answer. And again, Brother Nuri shared with us, he said, the minister gave him some advice. He said, brother, when you counsel someone, most of the time they're just going to pick and choose what you say to use it against the other person. So a lot of times we just want to get somebody that will co-sign what our wrong may be. And I try not to do that because I need a meeting too. So if I call on Brother Willie to give me some pastoral advice, yeah, guess what? I'm a believer and I fall short of the glory of God. So we have the tools. We just got to show the believers how to use the tools and implement the tools, even if the tools dig at us harder than it does the person that we have a conflict with. So, if that is anything I can share on that.
That's beautiful. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but Brother Dimitri, our student minister, who's also a part of the research team, has a desire to want to do pastoral trainings for the student ministry. And he shared with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan his desire to do so. And the minister was sharing with Brother Dimitri how he too had that desire, and he still does. But as a minister in New York, he had that desire, and as a result, he wanted to open up the mosque, I think, like on a Wednesday or whatnot.
Wednesday, yes, sir.
And the believers will come out and just pour all of what they were dealing with to the minister to where it would drain him. And he
Yes,
said
sir.
he couldn't even really get up because he was so drained hearing all of their stories. And when he shared that with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, brother, I didn't send you to New York to hear the believers' problems. He said, I sent you there to teach Islam. And he said, if you teach Islam properly, they'll be able to solve their own problems. Come to the meeting and you won't have a
need for a meeting.
Like
yes,
you said.
sir.
I want to squeeze two more questions in.
Yes, sir. Yes,
one, sir. I caught it when you mentioned the second time even more. So you were with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and members of the council right before they were about to leave to go to the Hajj?
Yes, sir. By Allah's grace.
Was there any more that you can? What was that like, man? Because that was a very historic gathering event. Because many people came back with holy names too, right?
Yeah, brother. You know, some of the things are obviously private moments,
right?
But the spirit was high. I remember Brother Saad was there. He was on 11, brother, and the minister was kind of the minister. You know, the minister is unflappable. I will say that there's not a moment that he doesn't recognize the gravity of the moment. And I think that's why he's so successful at recalling moments. The minister has a knack, and I'll say this about Brother Minister Abdul Hafiz as well, of recalling history like it happened yesterday. I'm trying to develop that, brother. I don't know if it's something that I'm not doing correctly, but Brother Abdul Hafiz could tell you the title of every Savior's Day from 1981 on. And that's including October and February. So, but the spirit was high. Obviously, there was, the minister was concerned about, any travel internationally. But the minister was real happy to be able to take those. And those who were going for the first time, I do remember him asking, and Brother Saad showing him a picture of student Minister James, because he asked about, he said, well, what happened to the other brother? And he showed him a picture of Brother James, and we talked about that for a moment. But I could just remember a high spirit. And as you can see, history is recorded that when they came back, they gave us a testimony to let us know that something magic, I won't use the term magical, but divine happened on that trip to those who were blessed to make that pilgrimage.
Beautiful. And I want to close out with this question. The title of this show is I Have a Testimony. And testimonies are very powerful in the court of law. And I often ask people this because when we started the show, I wanted to give people an opportunity who've been around a minister like you have and that you have shared, where they can talk about his qualities and as you have been doing, so that people who haven't can realize that this man is the real deal. We ain't making this stuff up. So this standard question that I ask is, if you had the opportunity to stand before the world and testify of a quality concerning the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what quality would you choose to testify to help the world to get a better understanding of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Wow, brother. I mean, as a believer, I will say that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is the Jesus that I've been looking for. I mean, I will say that unequivocally without hesitation. Now, my hour may come. Well, I may be as those disciples who doubted at a certain time and denied him 3 times before the rooster crowed or whatever the case may be. But I came, and I'll tell you, that 1985 Los Angeles speech, when the minister quoted Genesis, the 15th chapter, the 13th, 14th, and 15th verse, I'm telling you, I was sitting there watching this repeatedly. And I fact-checked the minister. I'm going to be honest, bro, minister. So if you're listening, praise be to Allah. But I pulled that Bible. I had it right in my little nightstand. I was a young man. I joined the nation at 21 years old. I had to be 19 at the time, maybe even 20. But I looked and I saw that verse and I said to myself, I've been to church. I've never heard a pastor lift this scripture. And when the minister related that to me, and I'm giving a personal testimony now that I'm chosen, a fire started. And I will say again to the world through my reading of scripture that this man is the Jesus. I can't testify of a Jesus of 2,000 years ago because I never met him. But all I know is I was blind, and now Allah has put sight to me through this man. I heard the name Elijah Muhammad. I had a hardcover Message to the Black Man in the early 80s. But I didn't understand that man until I met Minister Farrakhan. I seen a picture of Master Fard Muhammad, but I also seen other pictures who they say was the savior, but it ain't the savior. But I would not have had that understanding unless I met this man, Minister Farrakhan. So I just say to the world, put your personality aside. Look at this man, Minister Farrakhan, through the scriptures and marry that to his work. And if God have given it to you. Now, God may not have given you that sight yet, because remember, he asked the disciples, who do they say I am? And everybody had their own thought. And when he said, well, who do you say I am? One of them got it near correct enough for the master to say, flesh and blood hasn't shown you this. And I can say right now, flesh and blood has not shown me who I feel the Honorable Minister Farrakhan is. Circumstance has shown me. And where I'm sitting right now, brother and sister, I can say that it's a miracle for me to be able to stand and have people come and even hear two words that I had to say, brother, because I had no game at all when I was in the world. I couldn't put two sentences together. But because I have found something in the minister that I pulled on and I fed on, and he has blessed me to be able to do things that I know I would not have been able to do without a God, and not a mystery God, but a real God. So his commission is to make the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad known. And he is doing that. And we are knowing him through Minister Farrakhan. And the blessing is we have another chance to get it right. So today is the day. If you haven't gotten it right yet, get it right today. And I can just say that man has done something for me. And not just for me. I mean, I meet many of people who testify the same way. But I know if you're true in your hardest of hearts, the minister has given us something that is so valuable that his teacher said, you're more valuable to me than all the wealth that's in the earth. Because through you, Minister Farrakhan, I will get all of my people. And I'm glad that I'm part of the all. Praise be to Allah.
And brother, I've asked that question to many people that have been on this show, and I have to say that goes down as one of the most profound responses to that that question, man. And so we thank you, my brother, for giving us your time. I know you just probably left the rostrum coming right here, right?
Yeah, we're actually on the rostrum right now.
Yeah, you got from that to another rostrum. You're still teaching and testifying. And
I want to say thank you, man, brother, student minister Willie, for your hospitality. The believers in New Orleans are so beautiful. They treat me so well when I come. I feel like home. Whenever I leave, the believers here make sure that they remind me I have to come back here, because I keep telling them, you know, I may not make it back from New Orleans if y'all don't, you know, but I thank you so much. And this program, brother, keep it up. Keep up your good work in helping the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. And I thank you also for the beautiful ceremony at our wedding. I really, really, really thank you. And my family is still talking about that to this day. So may Allah bless you, brother.
And I thank you too. You know, you come down here. The last couple of times I wasn't able to get you on the roster. You came during the weekday. You had to go back to the city during the weekend. But you always know, man, it was a blessing. I feel the same way about you, man. A pleasure to have you. Like you said, now you're a dual citizenship here in the city of New Orleans. Your family, your wife, give her the greetings, man. Give the believers there the greetings, man. And may Allah continue to bless you in the mighty work that you're doing in the city of New Brunswick.
Thank you, brother. May Allah bless you.
You too. May Allah bless you as well. And so for those who are, walaikum salam, for those who are tuning in, we thank you all for continuing to tune into I Have a Testimony. We have some more dynamic shows coming up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow Closing the Gap broadcast. Under the work, we have Brother Chad, Brother James, Sister Starla. It's a bunch of people, just network. So we thank you all, and may Allah continue to bless you. And we thank you all for tuning in to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.